So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our public budget hearing. This is an annual requirement. We are required by law to approve our budget every June and required to hold this hearing so to give our public a chance to comment on the budget before the board votes, which we will do later this evening during the public portion of the hearing. So I will now turn this over to our financial director, Mary Beth Rogers, and after she presents the parameters for the budget, there will be a chance for the community to ask questions related to the budget and the budget only before we begin our business meeting. So Mrs. Rogers and Dr. Ryan.
Okay, welcome to the 2021-22 budget public hearing. I'm going to start with just where we're at right now with the state aid funding. Our state aid budget currently is not approved. This is our second year in a row that we're approving a budget without a state aid budget, which is 90% of our revenue, and we don't know it at this point. There is a little bit of movement, I think, on the legislators, but we still don't have an answer. We did have a May revenue consensus, and it came in strong, and Michigan is looking good. So we should maybe even expect a larger increase than what I have in the budget right now for asking the board. And also right now we have a lot of COVID federal funding unknowns. There is still a lot of federal funding out there. We don't know for sure what's going to happen obviously next year. And then will there be more federal funding? We don't know at this point. So, and then like I said, we're presenting it without a state aid budget. So. The parameters right now are student count is a decrease of 100 students. That can vary, it can either be higher or lower. In the past few years it has actually been higher than 100, but we're going with 100. Special enrollment gain of 43 students. We didn't have any increases in our benefit changes this year, any increases in our retirement cost. Right now we have the state funding increase at 164 per pupil. That is what the governor has proposal is out right now. But there is some movement right now, and it could be another $400 to $600 higher if what is going on right now in Lansing does actually happen. And then the shared service growth, we're looking at a 10% growth. That is all we are allowed to grow by, and we have been every year been able to reach that cap. And shared service, virtual academy, that's our program for our out of school kids, not our kids that are doing the COVID virtual programs, but our out of district kids that are doing virtual programs. They have been for a couple years now with the district. We're expecting that to grow 100 FTE. And then right now in the budget, I have just over $7 million in one-time federal COVID relief funding. This is the known funding that we know of right now that has been approved. And then we do have obligations in our human resources of $2.459 million, and then the system of supports that we're adding to our budget of $2.75 million. The revenue budget exceptions, like I said, is 164 right now, which takes us from 8,111 per pupil to 8,275. Currently, there is going on this week, but it's not been approved. It's only been approved by the House, so we don't know where it'll happen once it goes through the Senate and the governor, is an 8,700. That's where I said there's going to be quite a variance from what we approved tonight, potentially, for what actually happens. The enrollment 100 student loss, that is a negative 811,000 because we're predicting 100 student loss. The special, if we get 43 students over the summer that are in our specialized open enrollment programs, which is mainly our kindergarten, you'll look at about 350,000 added to our budget. And then we have some one-time increasing enrollment grant that was a categorical last year that currently is not in the state aid budget. And then the shared service, that 10% growth and the extra 100 in FTE we'll get from the virtual academy is 762,000 positive revenue to the budget from last year. The one-time federal COVID relief, over $7 million, is made up of a state equalization supplemental COVID funding that they're doing to make all schools reach a 450 per pupil for this year in the ESSER 2 funding. So the 450 is the 2,445, 300 from the state, and then the ESSER 2 of the 1.416, 860,000. That has been approved. That is one-time funding we're going to be getting, and it is one time, and it is spent on federal COVID relief items that are allowed by federal government funds. And then, one more. And then the ESSER 3 is 3.18586 million. This is what we know right now. There is some talk about maybe another 2 million to 2.5 million of federal funding that we might get. We just don't know it at this time, so it's not in the budget. Expenditure budget assumptions, like I said, there's 0% change in benefits. We have the 2.459 added to the budget in human resources. We have, I did not increase the pension costs at this point, and then we increased several items for systems of supports of 2.75 million. So our projected revenue for 2021-22, total revenue is over $104 million. Total expenses, we're looking at over $102 million. And then we have some transfers in of $169,000 from other funds. And then the total surplus would be almost $1.5 million for next year, with a total fund balance of 14.9%, unassigned 13.38%. So to kind of give you an idea how that looks, with our fund balance at almost $1.5 million, that gives us just over $15 million of surplus. And right now, that is divided through non-spendable, 182,507, and assigned fund balance. Those are two line items that are auditors, and it's restricted, and our auditors, when they come out and audit us in the fall, require us to set aside those funds, leaving our unassigned at $13.7 million. This total gives us a total fund balance of 14.9%. Interesting is that when I did some research before I put this presentation together to find out what this average is right now for schools, the F20 average was 14.9. So the budget that we're asking to approve is actually right at the state average for a school district right now. And that is a quick summary of the budget that the board's being asked to approve tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. Okay, before I ask for any questions from the public trustees, are there any questions from you at the moment? Okay. Members of the public, are there any questions regarding the budget? Any questions on what you saw tonight for the budget? Yes, ma'am, if you could just stand up, please. The COVID funding, did you hear that, Ms. Rogers? Go ahead.
We are allowed to carry some of it over for one year. So you would be able to spend it the next school year if we did get it spent this year. But the right now, the way the budget's been proposed was we're proposing and spending it this year.
Please, go ahead.
There's a list that we get from the federal government of how we're allowed to spend it. It's quite an extensive list, and then we just make sure we spend it in those guidelines. And then when our auditors come out, they will make sure that we spend it in those guidelines. No, I do not believe it can even be spent that way.
Any other questions from the public regarding the budget? Way in the back, yes, please, if you could stand up so everyone can hear you.
I was just curious if
I'll try to see. It's quite complicated. It's being spent on increasing our staff to meet some of the COVID standards. It's being spent on loss of learning. We are required to spend 20% of it on, at least on loss of learning. Being spent on summer programming. It's been spent on a lot of items. Cleaning supplies, any type of supplies that we have to buy or equipment to keep our buildings clean. I'm trying to think of what else. A lot of items. A lot of internet items it's being spent on. Connectivity, hotspots. I think there's some more items. I'm probably just not remembering. Any new staff that we've had to hire or increase our staff by, we're able.
It's specifically related in the areas of teaching and learning, relative to class size and other type of items that relate to running a school. Anything that has to do with staffing that way. Anything related to class size. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, anything related to class sizes, teaching and learning is investment in the school district as we push forward with respect to COVID and the aftermath of trying to repair any lost learning. And then the plethora of different things that are involved in supporting the school district and schools directly. And that, as it was you heard, anything from the range from cleaning supplies to anything else that makes schools operate. No, there's nothing related to anything that we have to do with respect of curriculum or any of the local adoptions that we have.
All right, I see no other questions related to the budget, so we will take about a 3-minute recess so we can get back up there and get our board packets online, and I will check the list. Let's just take 1 minute. If anyone else who has not signed in, if you wish to address the board tonight, where is that list, Mrs. Rowe? It's still right up here on this side table. If you could please come up and sign in if you wish to address the board this evening, so I can get a copy of that, and when we get to item 3, we can run through that list. So 3-minute recess, please. If you wish to address the board, please take this time to come and sign in right here. And we will begin the business meeting then in about 3 minutes. Thank you so much. The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. McLean, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Need.
Here.
Ms. Catalina. Here. Mrs. Egan.
Here.
Mrs. McGinnis. Mrs. Crane. Mr. Heyer.
Here.
Mrs. Horst.
Here. Mrs. McGinnis and Mrs. Crane both send their apologies. Mrs. McGinnis is dealing with an ongoing family issue tonight, and Mrs. Crane is out of town for a previous family commitment. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community hearing. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in agenda items 3 and 9. Item 2 is approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Are there any questions or discussion from the board? Seeing none, Mrs. McLean, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Crane. Ms. Catalina.
Yes.
Mr. Heyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Egan.
Yes.
Mrs. McGinnis. Mr. Need.
Yes.
Mrs. Horst.
Yes. The motion carries. Item 3 is citizens' request to address the board. You are given 2 opportunities to address the board. Under item 3.1, you can request to address the board on any topic that's on tonight's agenda. Under item 9, you are welcome to address the board on any topic. When making comments, please state your name and address. Direct your comments to Mrs. Kelly Horst, President. Each person may speak for up to 2 minutes. Per established procedures, the board will not respond to questions or interact with the speaker during public comment. And I see from the sheet here we have 11 members of the public who have requested to address the board, and based on the topics that you have written here, it looks like everyone would fall under item 9. Is anyone disagreeing with me on that? Okay, very good. Then for everyone who has signed up, we will get to you all under item 9. Is there anyone who did not sign up on the sheet who at this time would like to add their name to it or indicate that they would like to address the board on an agenda item? Okay, seeing none. It certainly doesn't preclude you from addressing the board when we get to item 9, but we will continue on with our agenda now. Item 4 is superintendent's update. Dr. Ryan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, President Horst. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to see a full boardroom and having individuals from our community that can come, be together, sit together in a room without restrictions in the way that we were supposed to be. And I, for one, have greatly appreciated that we have this opportunity this evening. And I'd like to start the meeting by acknowledging the leadership and contribution of our Board of Education during this last unprecedented year. Tonight is our last school board meeting of the school year, technically. School years don't run from January to December. They actually start technically with our budget and all of our programs on July 1st. So this is technically our last board meeting. And the individuals that are seated up here with me tonight are residents, parents, servant leaders who represent the views and priorities of our community in a complex system of managing public schools. They don't do it for the money, they don't do it for the accolades. And I was very, very happy and proud recently when I was notified of some awards that our board members had received by the Michigan Association of School Boards and from our Oakland County School Board Association. And I wanted to take a moment to recognize those board members who had these achievements. From the MASB, which is the Michigan Association of School Boards, our board received the Standard of Excellence Award given when all board members have achieved the Award of Merit, the second level of certification, and puts them in a very small minority of boards from across Michigan. Our president, President Kelly Horst, received the Master Diamond Award for advocacy skills, specialty, and Vice President Greg Need received the Award of Distinction. And from our Oakland County School Board Association, Secretary Steve Heyer was honored for 20 years of board service, and Trustee Cheryl McGinnis, who is not here this evening, received a special recognition upon her retirement from the School Board Association of Oakland County, which he has served on since 2008. We're very lucky in Clarkson to have a board that is so withstanding and takes the time to really educate and to train and be able to have a solid understanding of the situation and the complexities of school districts and all the governance that goes along with them. So I just wanted to say thank you, collectively. Well done. And to that end, I looked at this past year of a small symbol to acknowledge our school board. This flag here that I have flew above the board office during the pandemic and has been appropriately decommissioned this afternoon by a retired U.S. Marine in our community who folded it tight and within regulations and takes this stuff absolutely seriously as it should be. And I thought, what better symbol, since this is our last board meeting of a history-making year, to be able to present it to our Board of Education as a symbol of strength, fortitude, spirit, and unity. President Horst, thank you and the school board for your work this year. Thank you. That flag might be worn, but in my heart it shines. And that's what I want to see. Thank you.
It's very nice. Thank you.
And I also want to welcome tonight our guests that are addressing our CRT curriculum. As the state COVID restrictions were lifted last week, this is our first board meeting at full capacity, masks optional. And as I said, it's great to see a packed house. I see some familiar faces, community members, with whom I've had the pleasure of meeting personally on different occasions. I expect we may be hearing from some of you at the podium later tonight. And it's always difficult when we're not allowed to respond directly but take notes, and we usually always get back to everybody afterwards, but it's a time for really our community to sound off and for our board and myself to listen. And I want to thank you in advance for your engagement and advocacy. Although it's not on tonight's agenda, I want to say that I am aware that many parents, not only in Clarkston but across the country, have expressed concerns regarding critical race theory curriculum that's being introduced in public K-12 schools. To be clear, there is no plan to adjust our current curriculum to incorporate critical race theory, but there seems to be some confusion around anything that may be associated with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I want our community to know that we have always and will always affirm the value and humanity of all students and ensure that every child has what they need to succeed. That's our number one job as a school district. We seek to elevate academic achievement across this district, developing all students' potential and meeting the needs of all learners with individual supports. It's not about taking away from high-achieving students or limiting them from reaching their personal best or reapportioning resources from one school to another or one grade level to another. It's about getting the right instruction to the right students at the right time. Next year, I'm happy to report that all of our students in all schools will be receiving increased supports from what they had from this year and any year of the last decade that we've had in Clarkston. It's going to be a great time of renaissance, and it is absolutely needed post-COVID. Our students are struggling and had to endure the last year both academically, socially, emotionally, and just being alive through a pandemic. And we, as your school district, are preparing and will be prepared on the first day of school to meet them wherever they are as they cross the threshold into school. We'll be ready to take them, everything they've endured, and help support them to go further. And we're going to do it as long as we possibly can. And I will never make apologies for supporting all kids that way, nor will I ever have a system that takes from one to give to another. It's about everybody getting what they need. And next year in Clarkston, again, I'll say it again, everybody is getting more. And I'm very proud of that, to be part of a team that's going to be put that forth. But everybody should also know that when we look at modifications of curriculum, which we're not looking at right now, but in the future, decisions in how we teach are not made in a vacuum. New curriculum, as might be a fear of people in the community, doesn't just show up in classrooms or get adopted in the middle of the night. Our district has a collaborative, transparent, and well-defined process for examining curriculum. It's in our policies. The Teaching and Learning Council, which is a group of roughly 50 members, that has educators, parents, students, administrators, counselors, and all other representatives from our school district, meets to make these decisions. They've been doing it for over 20 plus years in Clarkston, as long as I've been here. And over the course of a school year, new curriculum is presented for review, refined, and approved by vote, taken to this open meeting as a final vote for the public to be able to hear and discuss over several meetings. I know that in the past, many of you might not have been aware of that or have not been subjected where you had an interest in a particular curriculum. But you always have the right to review and look at what's being taught to our students. And you have a duty as a parent to make sure you're informed about it. This is our community schools. As far as right now in Michigan, we have the power to set our final curriculum decisions, and we take that extremely seriously as a board superintendent team. And I think everybody here needs to know that's how the process works. Our K-12 curriculum is available for public view on our district website, www.clarkstonmichigan.us/academics, which we'll make available on the website that will highlight to make sure you can find it. I don't want anybody to have trouble finding any piece of what's going on in any classroom in Clarkston. And parents are also always welcome to contact my assistant superintendent or myself for instructional services, Ms. Nancy Mahoney, with specific questions related to curriculum. And I hope this provides a little bit of clarity as we move forward. Additionally, speaking of moving forward, many of you have heard the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services recommendations for school this fall. They put forth a series of recommendations that look scarily very similar to how we left off, with the additional part of having us encourage students and families to get vaccinated. I, as your superintendent right now, as of today, looking around the world and seeing the state of COVID, vaccinations, and where we are, have no appetite to support that recommendation as it exists right now for the Michigan Department of Public Health. I tried to start the trail of this information on my last note to our families at the end of the year. Some, I think, understood it. Some thought it maybe wasn't clear enough. We are not going back right now with the idea that we're going to be masked, distanced, and doing extraordinary measures. In my mind, I've weighed the safety, which I've done all year, the safety and welfare of our staff, students, and community. And there's a point where it needs to break to where we have to look at what has been lost over the last 2 years. I have kindergartners that will be going into second, third grade, depending if they are young fives, that have had sustained loss of that type of environment. It's not simply showing up to school, folks. It's about getting together in a room and being able to do the teaching practices that we were trained to do. That involves being able for teachers to see children's faces. It involves our children to be in groups to where we can work with them based on their ability level and their needs. And we're doing all this recovery. If we can't teach the way that we need to teach, all we're going to do is fall further behind. And right now, in the state of the world, my opinion, my impression, and my recommendation is going to be that we start the school as normally as we can. I'll say with the caveat, though, mind you, we are minding the store. If there is localized outbreaks or something that I need to react to in an individual building, we'll do what we need to do to keep things going and done the right way. But we're not doing it in response to fear. If we have to manage something, we will manage it moving forward, not backward. So I wanted our community to be clear on that. We will also not be entertaining, and no recommendation will be coming from me to the school board for any type of mandate or strong arming when it comes to vaccines. We believe right now that is an individual family choice, and if it does become something that the Department of Health or the state of Michigan mandates, that will be for you all to take it to a different court to be able to mandate and do that. So looking at the big picture, I wanted to get ahead at least of where I heard some of the concerns, if not only this evening to show that I do hear you and do listen. I don't always agree, and I know sometimes that we're on different sides of the fence depending on issues, but I never want to be for lack of transparency or knowing where I stand as your superintendent. So I appreciate all of being here. We're going to take care of our business part of our meeting, and I look forward to hearing your comments at the end of the meeting. Thank you, President Horst.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Thank you for this tremendous gift and honor and recognition as well. This is very special and much appreciated by the board. We'll move on to our presentation items. Item 5.1 was going to be a performance by our Madrigals to send us off. However, we unfortunately picked a weekend that they're all at camp at Interlochen, so sorry about that. That would have been a very special presentation for all of you as well. So we are going to move on from 5.1 to item 5.2, recognition of the Munetrix Scholarship winner. Dr. Ryan, back to you.
Okay, looking for the Mucinex. We can have So we want to recognize Benjamin Moika for the honor of the Scholarship Award. If he could come up this evening and be presented this distinction. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jared Grandy. I'm the Executive Director of Student Services at Oakland Schools. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce our interim dean at the Northwest campus, where our student is, your student is our student as well. So with that, having said that, I have Tamla Brown-Williams with us. She will do the honors.
Good evening.
Ben, step right up. Let's see it for the crowd.
Good evening. I want to tell you just a little bit about Ben, who I've had the pleasure of working with, well, virtually. You were working virtually, so this is actually the first time that I've actually laid eyes on him in person. Ben has been a student at the Oakland Schools Technical Campus Northwest Entrepreneurship and Advanced Marketing Program for the last 2 years. During that time, he has demonstrated multiple skills and accomplishments that make him a worthy recipient of this scholarship. His academic and technical accomplishments shine despite the atypical learning environment that occurred this year because of the global pandemic. Ben was able to maintain grades of 3.5 7 or higher, and in fact, this past year, his senior year, he maintained a 4.0 for both semesters and earned the Microsoft Office Systems PowerPoint certification. Additionally, go ahead. Additionally, Ben participated in DECA, which is the Marketing Student Leadership Organization, where he was appointed the operations manager and took part in multiple field trips and job shadowing experiences. Ben has been recognized on the Dean's List for both years while attending OSTC and was inducted into the National Technical Honor Society this year. Ben's future aspirations include college to study marketing, specifically in the interest of sports marketing. Congratulations and good luck, Ben.
Just to give you some background, there's 56 intermediate school districts in the state of Michigan grouped into 12 regions. And when the COVID hit, Pete Solar from Munetrics sat down with the Michigan Association of intermediate schools and said, you know, what could we do when everybody's locked down and virtual? And they came up with the idea of a $1,000 scholarship in each of the 12 regions. So we told the ISDs in the regions, you come up with the recipient and just tell us where to go to give the check. And then Amanda Benno and Linda Kraft from Munetrics came up with what internally we call our Happy Gilmore checks. And I could tell who has seen the movie. And I think this is the 4th or 5th one of these we've given out as we go around the state. And I know that the young fellow, Justin from Tawas, 2 weeks ago told his teacher he was going to show his Happy Gilmore check off at his graduation party. So I think these are more popular than the checks themselves. But, so, Benny, congratulations.
Great, congratulations. We'll let them go out there and get all their photos. Great work, Ben. We'll move on to item 5.3, recognition of the 2021 Clarkston Foundation Teacher of the Year.
Thank you, President Horst. It's my pleasure and honor to share with you that this year's Clarkston Foundation Teacher of the Year is Sashbaugh Middle School teacher Monica Phillips. Because we were under restrictions at the time we were originally granted this award, we wanted Monica to have the opportunity to come in front of our community to be able to say a couple words for this tremendous honor and be able to recognize her family, which is here this evening as well. Monica, thank you for all you do for the kids of Clarkston. Way to bring it. We're so excited you're here this evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking time to do this. I know you've got lots of your agenda tonight. Yes, my biggest fan club is here tonight. My kiddos, my family. But I wanted to just take a minute and say thank you to the board, to Dr. Ryan, to Mrs. Nancy Mahoney for encouraging the Clarkston Foundation to be such a big part of our community and in our classrooms, and going ahead and encouraging them to go ahead with their annual celebration of teachers in our district. And after such a roller coaster of a year, it was really wonderful. And I think I could speak not only for myself, but for the other amazing nominees as well, that it was wonderful to sit down with their committee and to really share the good of the year, to share our students' learning, to share probably more than ever our departments and teams collaborating together, pushing innovation, pushing student engagement, how we're moving learning forward. And out of the years and years I've been part of Clarkston Community Schools, I really think this last year and a half stand out to me as the highlight of being proud of us. And it really is this room. And it comes back to the leadership and to the board and to Dr. Ryan and to Nancy, being that pillar of light, of positivity for our students, the staff, the community. So thank you for being part of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, the family needs to come up so we can get a photo. Do you want us to come down and get a photo? Okay. All right. I know.
Lurkers in the back.
I'll find, yeah. Maybe that's. All right, we'll move on to item 5.4, recognition of the 2020-2021 Oakland County Excellence in Transportation Award winners. Back to Dr. Ryan.
Thank you. Each year, Oakland County recognizes individuals who exemplify excellence in providing or supporting the safe transportation of our pupils in Oakland County. This year, Tom Harmon and Bea Wendorf were nominated and have been selected as honoraries for Clarkson Community Schools. And I don't know if you were able to make it here this night. I don't see you exactly in the crowd. But I want to take a moment to publicly thank and make sure that our community knows that every last bus driver, custodian, teacher, parapro, everybody that's involved in the educational process is incredibly important to make it work each and every day. And I can't say enough about Tom and Bea for what they contribute to our school district and for our students. Don't forget, community, that first faces that our students see every morning is getting on a school bus. So I can't say enough but saying congratulations, and I think just if they were watching it on TV at home, a round of applause for these two individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. I know one of the most challenging days I had as a board member was the day I rode a bus from morning until afternoon, and I thought, what a job. I mean, they are tremendous, tremendous individuals. And I had a little kindergartner sit next to me and talk my ear off, and I thought, oh my God, I don't know how they keep their attention. I mean, they really are tremendous, tremendous employees. It's right, they're the first faces those our children see and the last faces they see, and they can absolutely set the tone for the day. I mean, I just admire them and the job they do tremendously. So thank you, congratulations to them and to all that our drivers do for us. Just wonderful. Okay, we'll move on to action items. Item 6.1, approval of personnel changes. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the personnel changes as listed on the attached sheets.
Support.
Are there any questions or discussion on the personnel changes? I see Mr. Lucido is here. Mr. Lucido, could you please introduce our new Executive Director for Special Education?
Yep. Stacy Theopolis is our new Executive Director of Special Education. She's officially starting with us tomorrow morning. So
Great.
welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to thank the board, thank all of the individuals who participated in the many, many hours of interviews with the interview committee. Dr. Ryan and the entire administrative team that I've already been able to meet casually. I am thrilled to be a part of this community, and I'm excited to work alongside all of you, as well as families and staff in the district. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. Welcome to Clarkston. We're certainly thrilled to have you. It's a super important job here in our district. We look forward to working with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And Stacy's held leadership roles in both Birmingham and Novi, where she was their assistant director for many years. So I think this is a very big win for Clarkson to bring in some fresh ideas and some, again, supporting all the great things we've done already along the end of special services. So we welcome you and thank you for coming aboard as part of our team.
Great. Thank you. We still have a motion on the table to accept the personnel report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 6.2 is approval of memorandums of understanding. I think we can approve both of them at the same time. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the proposed memorandum of understanding between Clarkston Community Schools and the Clarkston Education Association as presented.
Support. And just as way of being explicit, I think the motion should include the MOU for virtual program teachers
Yes.
and MOU for professional compensation,
Yes.
just because we are doing both of them, if you're okay with that, Mrs. Egan.
Friendly amendment
And-
accepted, yes.
And I would support that as amended.
Amended. Okay. Are there any questions or discussion on either 6.2.1 or 6.2.2?
I would just make a comment at this point that, I think we've alluded to this in several comments already made tonight, but obviously we would not have gotten through the last year and a half without the strong support and flexibility of our teachers. And as I travel around the state and talk to school board colleagues in other areas, I think a real competitive advantage of us and our community here is our teachers and their flexibility and their willingness to collaborate and work together and think outside of the box. And I mean, they've practically been through a war this year as we've reevaluated and reinvented, how we deliver instruction. And as Dr. Ryan, very eloquently stated, we need to do what it is that we know how to do. And as we've just heard from Mrs. Phillips, I think there's probably some things we've learned that will carry forward that are real improvements. But certainly I don't think this is the way we want to operate going forward, the way we've been operating. So we're going to take all of our best practices and go forward. And I think, with the collaborative, truly unique relationship I think we have with our teachers, these memorandums of understanding that have gotten us through have, it's never been, a union issue. You hear a lot of things in the media in other districts, like that's not how it works here. We have a basic premise of if it's a problem for you, it's a problem for us. And we live it, we breathe it. I think as a board, we truly, truly, truly appreciate it. I just want to make sure our community appreciates that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Heyer. Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 6.3 is approval of the contract with the Clarkston Transportation Association. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the proposed master agreement between Clarkston Community Schools and the Clarkston Transportation Association as presented.
Support.
I do have a question, though.
Mr. Need, go ahead.
Mr. Lucido, can you clarify the term of this contract? There seems, at one point it says 3 years, at one point it says July 31st, 21 through December 31st of 22. Which one?
The contract's expiring December 31st, 22.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me. I'm wondering if that's a track changes copy that we sent you with something still highlighted on it. But this contract with transportation will now put us in line with the rest of the bargaining group's expiration dates of 12/31/22.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Other questions or comments from the board? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 6.4 is approval of curriculum adoptions. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the new curriculum and resource materials for Spanish 2 and Construction Math 2 as presented.
Support.
Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Just a comment.
Mr. Need?
I think when you look at the backup material here, that kind of shows what the board has presented when we approve any curriculum change. We get a fair amount of background material and backup as to what's being proposed, why, and the cost, et cetera, and that is done for every curricular item after it goes through the TLC.
Agreed. Seeing no other questions or comments, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 6.5 is approval of purchase of Fast Bridge screener. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the purchase of the Fast Bridge Universal Screener at a one-year cost of $47,000 as presented.
Support.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? I don't know if Mrs. Mahoney, if there's anything that you wanted to add here. All right. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 6.6 is approval of the 2020-2021 second amended budget. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the final amended budget for 2020 to 2021 as presented.
Support.
Any questions or discussion from the board? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 6.7 is approval of the 2021-2022 budget. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the budget for 2021-22 as presented.
So this is the detailed budget for the hearing that we had earlier this evening, trustees. Are there any questions or comments on the proposed budget?
It would be great if the state actually stuck to their intended time frame of getting us a budget before we're legally required to pass ours, but that has not happened in the last couple of years. But I think we'll look forward to the first amendment. We treat the budget as a plan, and we continually refine the plan and, with the information as we learn it. And I think we regularly take a very conservative approach to budgeting, where we underestimate our revenue and underspend our budget every year.
And I know the House approved the school aid budget last week, and hopefully the Senate will vote on Wednesday. And I know I emailed Senator Johnson, who is my personal senator, today, so we shall see. And so for those of you who are in Independence and want to email Senator Baer as well, maybe we can get that done before the holiday. Okay, any other comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. And item 6.8 is approval of policies. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the revised policies 8500 food services and policy 8510 wellness as presented.
Support.
Mr. Heyer, is there anything you wanted to say about these policies? I know we're doing a first reading and approval in the same night because there's a requirement to approve one by the end of June.
Yeah, these are legally required. We're required to go through and make sure we're following them every 3 years, and this is on cycle with doing that, and we really didn't make any changes from what we had been doing, but we met the requirement by reviewing it and going through it, and it is in front of you for our formal approval.
Mm-hmm. Any questions? I think at the time, this was probably the only thing that was on that June agenda, and one of the reasons we collapsed everything into one agenda, because, it would have been a one-item meeting. So thank you all also for being flexible enough to add everything into one meeting tonight in June.
Mrs. Horst, I would just say we've had plenty of time to review this policy and get back to the policy committee,
Yeah.
so I don't think this is that unusual.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
We're good.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 7 is report items. 7.1 is our monthly finance update. We'll turn that over to Mrs. Rogers.
Okay, this is your May update of where we're at currently with the 2020-21 budget. And then you will get the June, July, and August all together when we get back in September. But the budget to actual revenues right now are at 76%, with the local revenue at 90%. State revenue is at 73%. We're still waiting for the June, July, and August revenue from the state. The federal revenue at 90, almost 92%, inter-district revenue at 75%. The budget to actual is almost 80% right now with our expenditures, still booking all of June expenses. And then right now we're at 9.6 million for fund equity, but that will go up considerably as we get the rest of our revenue and rest of our expenditures booked over the summer. And then we should expect the auditors to be out in October to present how we actually end the year. And then this budget that you just approved, amended budget, will get entered and implemented, and then we'll match a little closer. But it didn't really change much, so you still were at a 3 million surplus, which is what your first amended budget was. So do you have any questions on anything that was submitted or any of the purchases we made in the month of May?
Trustees, any questions for Mrs. Rogers? All right. Seeing none. Thank you very much. All right, item 8 is discussion items. We have none tonight. Item 9 is citizens' comments. Citizens are welcome to address the board at this point on any topic. So I now have the record of citizens who wish to address the board, and we will go down in order, and when we get to the end there, if there are any other citizens who wish to address the board, we can add you to that list. As we stated earlier, if you will please state your name and address when you get to the podium, you will have 2 minutes to address the board. We'll begin with Anna Anderson.
Hello, my name is Anna Anderson. And I live on Sashwell Road, Clarkson, Michigan, 48348. Do you want my house numbers too?
Nope.
Okay.
Go ahead. I have it right here. Thank you.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
Okay. The reason my subject of discussion tonight is I just want to make parents aware, and Dr. Ryan has already addressed some of this in his opening statement tonight, but there is something that the state has actually introduced as guidelines. It's called the Michigan Safer Schools Future of COVID Testing, and in some of the recommendation guidelines, they are suggesting that schools actually test healthy children that are unvaccinated twice a week for the entire school year. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen this presentation. They are also encouraging that part of it comes with a financial package from the federal government, but that Michigan is leading the way in testing healthy children to prevent outbreaks. And I know you're not allowed to talk back to me, but as a parent of children, healthy children in Clarkson schools, I don't feel it's the school's responsibility to test my child to see if they have a virus. That's between my child, and their doctor, and I don't feel that's a place for the school district to interfere. Another part of this package is that they are encouraging schools to mask unvaccinated children, and as of right now, the vaccination isn't even approved for children under the age of 12. So that means all elementary age kids would be vaxxed in their recommended guidelines. As a parent, I currently don't have elementary age children, but I have nieces and nephews that are elementary age, and the masks are absurd. Their mental health is declining, their physical health is declining, their emotional well-being is declining wearing masks. I have high schoolers. Every day they would come home and say, I'm so sick of wearing this.
All right. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Peter Keller. And I know you want to applaud when people are speaking, but it does eat into the speaker's time, and I'm sorry I have to be very rigid with the 2 minutes since we have a long list tonight, so I'm just giving you fair warning there. So, all right, Mr. Keller, if you'll state your name and address, please, and when you begin speaking, I'll start your 2 minutes.
Good evening, President Horst. My name is Peter Keller, 6450 Waldenwoods Drive. I'm a father of a 2017 Clarkson graduate and of a current 9th grader. I'm appealing to the members of the board to listen to all the concerned parents in our school district and reverse your decision on the strategic plan you voted on after the last meeting before it will damage Clarkson schools. Some of you might have already identified my accent. I'm a German immigrant. When we came to America 17 years ago, my then 5-year-old son did not speak any English. 3 months after arrival, he went to the first grade and he was immediately enrolled into ESL, the English as Second Language program. After 3rd grade, he was tested out of ESL. Next year, he will graduate from MSU with a double major, and he will be serving our great nation as an officer in the nuclear navy. This success story proves that the long-time implemented ESL program and teachers who help kids like my son for the first years in a normal classroom setting is sufficient to support students with disadvantages. What helped him later in high school was the equal opportunities Clarkston was offering for advanced and accelerated classes for high potential students like him. The established and accelerated programs will be reduced or completely eliminated when 33 teachers are relocated to less performing schools in the name of fairness and equity. Dr. Ryan's message from April 30th and his statement at the beginning of this meeting sounds nice and convincing, but I'm coming from a country where this kind of ideas has already eroded and damaged an established school system in the name of fairness and equity for over 50 years. Make no mistakes, this is not a temporary program, and class sizes for most students will grow exponentially, and a student like my 14-year-old daughter will pay the price for this strategic program.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Appreciate your comments. David Meyer.
Hi, I'm David Meyer. I live on Whitby Court in Clarkston. President Horst, when I first read of the Equity Strategic Plan, I thought the plan looked great. Great! Our kids need to have extra resources after all they have lost. However, others were skeptical and encouraged me to look closer. And I have also become skeptical, especially once this district published the picture of the kids at the baseball game. This graphic is great. It shows clearly what should happen. Why should a tall child use an unneeded box to watch a baseball game while a shorter child couldn't see with his given box? The second picture looks more fair. It looks kind, it looks equitable. The problem with this is that we aren't watching a baseball game. We're trying to educate our youth. And our youth aren't subgroups that should have a similar average outcome. Our youth are individuals with a wide variety of giftings and challenges. For instance, my family is a picture of your plan. My son is a high-achieving, rising 4th grader at one of the benchmark elementary schools. While my daughter is one of your subgroups as a special ed student, she is below average at a school targeted for additional resources. My daughter certainly needs more resources to meet minimum standards than does my son. However, achieving minimum standards is not our family goal. I don't target my children to an average line. Neither of them is average. They are individuals. In my house, we think about potential. My daughter's potential is limited. Her giftings are not academic. My goal in life is to stretch that limit as far as we possibly can. We hope for her to finish high school, perhaps attend a community college. We dream of her being able to hold down a stable job that could support her living independently. This is where we currently see her potential. My son's potential is unlimited. With appropriate challenges, he could be an astronaut, brain surgeon, or whatever he dreams. His giftings are academic and far-reaching. To use resources that could help my son achieve his potential in an effort to make my daughter reach an arbitrary average baseline would be robbing my son of his opportunities. Grouping children in subgroups forces us to look past their individual potentials and try to settle on an average. Our district has never been average. Our community doesn't want average. We want our district to reach its full potential.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Max Johnson.
Thank you, Mrs. Horst. My name is Max Johnson. I live at 9780 Allen Lane. And I would like to actually relinquish my time so Mr. Meyer can finish his comments. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we don't do that. No, 2 minutes per speaker. That's our protocol, 2 minutes per speaker. Thank you.
Okay,
very
well,
much.
then I would finish up my time by saying thank you for the preemptive comments on the concerns that obviously you foresaw to these parents that have assembled today. And I want to thank the parents for assembling and showing that you're vigilant and we're going to be watching. Your words are important to us, sir, and I believe that we will all be making sure that the rubber meets the road, where the words, that they're turned to action. So thank you.
Thank you very much. James Johnson? James Johnson?
Yes, James Johnson, 7821 Brook Pines Drive. I came prepared with a whole write-up here. I was going to be very passionate. Sean, you took me back a little bit with your comments in CRT on critical race theory. I think everything leading up to this point made a lot of people think that that's where we're headed. And I think maybe you could have addressed this before this meeting, perhaps. That being said, I am concerned with the equity initiative as well. And I was going to also bring up the cartoon that was just brought up with the 3 people standing on the boxes. I showed that to my 10-year-old daughter. I have 2 daughters in school. Showed that to my 10-year-old daughter. What jumped out to her when I explained to her what was going on in this picture was, hey, they can all see now. But guess what? The guy that can see the best now can't see as well because the top literally was brought down in your example. We have limited resources in our schools. You cannot take from one and give to another without affecting one of them. Equity is also the key component of CRT, critical race theory. It is the key component. Equity versus equality. You cannot push equity and still have equality. It's impossible. You do not have equality with equity. You choose one or the other. We need to quit looking at students based on their skin color and treat them as students. No more of this categorizing them. My daughters don't even know how many colored kids they have in their classroom. They know them all by name. They don't know them as, he's the minority and he's the minority. No, they're all friends, and that's how they treat kids. And I just want to bring up one more thing that really bothered me was the April 30th email you sent out moments after the George Floyd verdict was read, where you just tried to drive the wedge in with your email that was claiming that there are too many, and I can pull up the email, I don't have it in front of me. You basically said that there were an alarming amount of racial incidents happening on our campuses, and that's all you left it at. And I told you at the time that it was irresponsible and you owed our students an apology, and I think you do.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Jody Roth. Jody Roth.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Jody Roth. I live on Bluegrass Drive. I just wanted to say thank you, Sean Ryan, for saying that next year the kids won't be mandated to be wearing the mask. I want to say I'm a nurse at Troy Beaumont Hospital. I work on the mother-baby floor. This year, we have been pulled to the pediatric floor to be sitters, which means watch kids that are on suicide precautions. We've had 3 and 4 a week all year long, and it's been horrible for everyone. And now that they've lifted the mask mandates and school's out, we don't have any suicide sits at all. And so next year, moving forward, I just want to make sure that we can continue to not have these mask mandates. And me as a nurse, if I live with a child that has COVID, I still have to go to work. All they do is take my temperature, and the kids have been quarantined all year long if you're, 6 feet or whatever. But I still went to work every single day, and that's what our hospital policy was. So I just hope we can keep the kids in school this year. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Roth. Desiree Leon.
Hello, my name is Desiree Leon. I live in Clarkston. I want to start with just reading something from Hillsdale Imprimis. Critical race theory is an academic discipline formulated in the 1990s, built on the intellectual framework of identity-based Marxism. Relegated for many years to universities and obscure academic journal, over the past decade it has become the default ideology in our public institutions. It has been injected into government agencies, public school systems, teacher training programs, and corporate human resources departments in the form of diversity training programs, human resources modules, public policy frameworks, and school curricula. There is a series of euphemisms deployed by its supporters to describe critical race theory, including equity, social justice, diversity and inclusion, and culturally responsive teaching. Critical race theorists, masters of language construction, realize that new Marxism would be a hard sell. Equity, on the other hand, sounds non-threatening and is easily confused with the American principle of equality, but the distinction is vast and important. So, the very words to describe critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI or DIE, is the name of the strategy plan that you intend to implement. However, DEI is only a graduated substitute for critical race theory and also derives from the same Marxism that CRT is based. In your update, Dr. Ryan, you stated that you will not be teaching CRT. However, to say that is only a half-truth. It is intentionally misleading to claim something is not being implemented only because the acronym differs, but the origins and lessons are the same, is a lack of character, and thereby implies that we cannot no longer blindly trust you. Diversity. Just by being born, we are diverse. No two persons are alike. Equity has nothing to do with justice. It is a direct reference to financial services, like an equity mortgage or a commodity for profitable outcomes. When did our children become exchangeable from being a person to becoming a product? Inclusion.
Thank you.
I'm not done, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
When
your
a
time is up.
child-
Thank you very much.
That's okay.
No,
That's
your
okay.
2 minutes are up.
When
Thank you very
a
much.
child is registered as a
Thank you very
student
much.
in any district,
You are now
they are
disrupting the
automatically
meeting.
included.
Thank you very much. Your 2 minutes are up. I'm being fair to everyone. Your 2 minutes are now up. Please. Thank you very much. She's on her way up. Christy Giampetroni.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Christy Giampetroni. When you look at me, who do you see? Do you see me? Growing up in Detroit, I did not fit in with the black kids. I was told I wasn't black enough. I didn't fit in with the white kids. I stood out as the tanned one. Many in the community asked if I spoke Spanish, and in college, some thought I passed for Asian Indian. Who do you say that I am? Would you treat me any different if you really knew? Honestly, it wouldn't matter. I love me for me. How about my children? If a teacher were to pull up my kid's profile picture, he or she would think my kids are white. Would it matter? Would you want to be hired based on the color of your skin? Be careful of what you see. Be careful of what you think you know. You do not know our cultural background, so how can you do cultural teaching, especially if you're teaching multiracial students? We know there are more multiracial families than ever before, and growing, which proves we've done a pretty amazing job getting along without DEI. Do you know how conflicted my child is becoming? Because you are teaching anti-racism, white supremacy, and blacks being oppressed? Do you truly understand the consequences of your DEI teachings? Please know what it is. Also, DEI policing will not be allowed. We don't need the schools sending an e-blast when they spot racism, shouting, "Be aware of your neighbors and report when you see racism." Do you make public announcements when a student becomes pregnant or is found drinking or using drugs? We believe in the God-given American dream and expect our teachers and staff to reflect the same. Our kids can go beyond their cultural origins. They can be and do be whatever they set their minds to be. They don't need teachers to be social workers or parents, wasting time on inclusion and asking them constantly about how they feel. We are all Americans. How about teaching the kids the golden rule?
Thank you
How
very
about
much.
all I really need to know is I learned in kindergarten. Finally, we need to know that DEI is rooted in critical racism.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And lastly, one
Thank
more
you
thing.
very much.
Just one more thing. It's really important that when we look at the equity plan,
Thank you
that
very
we
much.
look
I'm really being
for
fair to
leaders.
everyone. I
We
appreciate
look
it.
for overcomers.
I
That's what I want to
appreciate
look
it.
for.
Thank you so
Overcomers.
much. Appreciate it. Diane Crockett. Diane Crockett. Okay. Reverend Ron Warner.
Yes, I'm Reverend Ron Warren. I live at 6280 Walden Road, and I thank you and appreciate you and honor you for what you're doing. Being a person who's put together budgets and had to stand in the same situation you're in right now, I thank you for letting me come. The question that a lot of us have here is we understand that CRT is something we all oppose and that there is some debate as to whether or not DEI, CIT happen to cross the same path. Many people believe that DEI is a Trojan horse to CRT. I know I do. And maybe I can soothe some consciences by getting some basic things across, see where the board stands on some of the foundational issues of CRT, and this is from their own paperwork, their own doing. Number one, they say, this is one of their 4 pillars of belief, I'm going to mention 3 of them, and that is that racism in the United States is systematic, that it's omnipresent, you find it everywhere. And that's one thing, is that something that our board believes in. Secondly, because it is everywhere, number 2, the other problem is that it is unredeemable. As a Christian, I know that the only sin that's unredeemable is a sin, blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. And CRT is religion, by the way. That's why I call it a theory. And the unforgivable, unpardonable sin is racism. And I'm guilty of racism simply because I'm white. Another thing that they brought up, and that is that all knowledge is a social construct. In other words, it's something that's subjective, not objective, and nothing is true. And what we do is we elevate experience over truth. But one last thing I have, and that is being a person of faith. I want to make sure that we're moving in as educators. We're to educate, not indoctrinate. We are to tell our kids how to believe, not what to believe. That's our job as educators. But my first Christian, just one of my basic beliefs as a Christian, I actually believe some crazy things. You know that marriage, I believe, is between one man and one woman? There's some other crazy things I believe. You might not agree, but that there are only 2 sexes, a male and a female. And I know some people think I'm crazy, but you know science backs me up.
Thank you, Reverend Warner. Thank you very much.
Let me give you one other thing, because I'm a daughter of 2 girls.
Thank
and
you,
that is
Reverend
that
Warner.
What do we
Appreciate
mean
it. Your
about
time is up. Thank you very much.
Transgenderism. I want
Appreciate
to know
it.
if my
Your
girls
2
are going to
minutes
be
are up.
safe
Thank
on
you
the
so
athletics
much.
field and in the restrooms.
Your 2 minutes. Thank you. Susan Lima? Susan Lima? Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the board this evening? Okay. If you'd like to come up and state your name and address, you'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name's Amanda Kitteman. I'm at 9187 Hillcrest, Clarkston, Michigan. I actually wasn't gonna speak today, but I decided to. I have no speech and I really don't know too much, but I'm gonna tell you guys that I have 5 children here in Clarkston. I have 4 biracial children. my 4 sons. Two have graduated and 2 are in the high school right now. I also have a very beautiful kindergartner who had a horrific school year this year. My boys made up several excuses to sit next to every kid that sneezed so that they could quarantine. My 15-year-old is failing because he is making excuses to not go to school. As I said before, my sons are biracial. They are not a lot of brown faces here, and I'm not going to act like they haven't had some things said to them. But I can tell you that I moved my sons here so they can have a good education, so they can be treated fairly, so nobody will say that they are not capable of doing any and everything that they set their mind to. I am a young mom. I have a 20-year-old. I had him at 18 years old, and I am a single mother of all 4 of my sons because their father made a bad decision, and my sons have had so many opportunities here in Clarkston by people not looking at them any different or feeling sorry for them or giving them hands out. They have worked for everything that they have, and I appreciate you giving sons like mine who are on our football teams, who are on our basketball teams, who don't get hand-me-downs because they work hard. Don't make them feel any different than every other kid that they are in school with. Don't make them the subject of anything that they don't need to be. Let them know that their opportunities are fair and equal than every student here. My 18-year-old said, "Stop talking about race." That's what he said. My sons are black men in this world, will never be anything but a black man. And I tell them, work hard and show society that you guys are excellent. This is just dividing us. Please don't do that to our children. Don't make my 2 youngest sons go through the remainder of the school year having people look at them differently than anybody already does.
Thank you, Mrs. Kenneman. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board this evening? Okay. Just state your name and address, and you'll have 2 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Jill Thomas. I live at 6377 Heron Parkway. I'll be real fast. I just wanted to say I have a 2019 graduated with Alec. My daughter was told in her advanced language arts class in 2016 that it was okay for her to feel guilty for being white. The whole class was told it's okay to feel guilty for being white. That's all I want to say happened in your school district. And I did call the principal. I left a message, and he never called me back. So.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Sorry, I wasn't on the list either.
Okay, just state your name, please.
My name is
address.
Christina Meredith, and I live in Clarkston. I wasn't going to talk tonight because I looked at the list and I saw that it seemed like the subject matter had been covered. But being a mother to be at home this year and watch my children online, I was taken back. And I wanted to be open-minded and I wanted to not be judgmental. But when it came to the political side, before the election, it was very guided, one direction. That's all I'll say. And then when my children, 2 10th graders, were in their ELA classes, at the end of the year, one of their assignments was to compare themselves with other children in the school that were not like them, and then to come, because of what these other children had suffered, and compare themselves to an object at home. Both of my children were smart enough to say, you know, Mom, I'm not an object, I'm a human. And I feel like we are losing a little track here when we don't talk about our morals, our values, our integrity. It is not about the color of our skin. It is not about if we are gay or whatever we are. It is about us as an individual having morals, values, and integrity and honoring that in our school system. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Would you like to address?
Hi, my name is Ray Llewellyn, and I live on Pine Knob Road, Clarkston. Our children have already graduated, but listening to the individual parents and grandparents tonight, I just want to say to you board members, I think that it's time to get a broom out and clean that board. and get a new set of people there. To me, Kelly, saying to these people, 2 minutes. Now, you're able to talk as long as you want to talk. And you're like, oh, I have this long list. That is bullshit. These people should have as much time as they want. They have issues. They have concerns. They're parents. And to place this CRT under, oh, it's under something else. Well, you know, fortunately, somebody got this group started and brought us here tonight. I just think you people need, as a board, need to have respect to these people as parents, grandparents, taxpayers. And if you can't do that, then just leave the job. If you were in the public and you weren't doing your job, you'd be out the door. And that's what I'm saying to you.
Thank you very much for your comment.
I'm Rachel Brackey, and I live in Clarkston. I actually wasn't planning on coming tonight because I get a little fired up. But since my email to Ms. Mahoney wasn't responded to, I feel like it's important to share a personal story with you, just like some of the other parents had shared here. My oldest daughter is going to be a senior. She's in AP classes, advanced classes, doing very well. Very excited for her senior year. My other daughter, also wicked smart. Last year, she was in the 6th grade, did great, was in advanced science, advanced math. When we got her schedule this past year for 7th grade, she wasn't in advanced science any longer. Advanced science was her favorite class. She is a girl who loves science and math. And you guys just took that away from her. She's now in a class with a bunch of other kids who, some care, some don't. But before, she was in a class where everybody cared. My daughter, my oldest, is in CSM Tech. Everybody in CSM Tech cares. They all care about their grades. My youngest daughter was going to go down that path. Not anymore, because the decision that was made that wasn't communicated by the school, board, district, whomever, made her feel like nobody cared about her anymore. So science isn't her favorite class anymore. She still did great this year in quarantine at home. My kids didn't have any issues with mask wearing, with being at home. But when you guys start taking away things, it's impactful. My kid doesn't like science anymore because she was in a class with a bunch of kids who also didn't like science. Still loves math. Thank God for Mr. Capizzoli. But you guys, these are important decisions, and I want you to know it's meaningful. Like, my kid doesn't like science anymore. I think if anything, you really want to get girls to like science.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mrs. Breckman.
My name is Nicole Rumble, and I live on Rattly Lake Road. And I just have to say that going into the fall made me realize school boards matter, and who you vote for matters. So I'm going to be taking a lot of things into consideration when it comes to voting for the school board. But also, because I'm not allowed to yield my time to David Meyer, I'm going to finish what he was saying. And if anybody else can get theirs up here within the 2-minute time period, I'll finish theirs too. Grouping our children in subgroups is also counterproductive and possibly even offensive. Your subgroups mentioned in the April 26th board meeting included children of color and low socioeconomic. It was stated that these subgroups would be targets for increased resources due to their below average performance on standardized tests. To suggest that the color of a child's skin or the size of their family's bank account would affect the child's ability to learn is racist and classist. This policy suggests that a child who is struggling in math would receive more resources than another child who is also struggling in math based solely on the color of their skin or the size of their parents' paycheck. Instead, let's provide resources to appropriately challenge all of our students, whether those resources are advanced classes or interventionists. From each according to his need, to each according to his ability, is not what we need in Clarkston. We need a level playing field for all students that does not see wage, race, or any other ridiculous factors. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Spencer, and I'm a resident here in Clarkston. I want to apologize publicly that the first board meeting I ever listened to, living in this community since I was 13 years old, when my parents sold 2 houses in a district that was lower performing to move me here so that I could go to Clarkston schools. I have never sat through a board meeting until I sat through a 6-hour meeting of parents like me begging board members like you to allow our children to go to school. Unfortunately, the results of that, the results of not allowing parents to make the best decisions for their children, were that children like mine who had the resources to remove their kids from the district so that they could get the education that they deserve, did that. And so I'm questioning out loud that 100 children number, because I personally removed my 3 children from the district when the district didn't allow in-person learning. And I'm concerned as a person who loves this community with all my heart, because I am who I am today because this district believed in me, because Mrs. Mahoney helped me with my math homework when I didn't want to do it. We're giving up on our children by putting politics before their best interest. And that's exactly what we did when we decided that it wasn't my decision what happened to my children and made the announcement 2 weeks before school started so that parents like me couldn't make a decision fast enough to swivel to get my kids in person. Challenge accepted. I didn't give up. And I got my kids into a place that reflects my values and reflects my children's differences. My children are different colors, they're different academically, they're different in so many ways. And when we have a school district that is no longer reflecting the heart of our community, it's time for us to stand up, and it's time for us to
Thank you,
show
Mrs.
up.
Spencer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, please
My
state your
is
name and
Kendra
address.
Blanks.
Thank you.
I live on Lingle Drive, Clarkson, Michigan. I'd like to speak as a child of color who went to school in Clarkson Community Schools. I think it's easy to speak and say that your kid never went through this, you never saw your kid do this, you never this, you never that, if you are white. But if you are a child of color and you have to go through this, there's a lot of systematic things that go on that force you to be silenced. So you may never hear students talk about it, but there are things going on, and we need diversity, equity, inclusion in this school for students of color who have to go through this school. Yes, there are a lot of opportunities. There are things to help these students learn, but we also need to consider their emotional situations, just like how you guys felt about masks. It's the same thing for students of color. And if you guys believe that, you know, the world isn't about race and all this stuff, then consider that this is important to these people. It's important to me, it's important to my siblings that still are going to this school and experiencing this stuff. I've had brothers be called the N-word. I've had them be threatened. It's real. Your white kid may not have experienced it, but myself and my siblings of color have. It is real, and some change needs to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tyra Blanks. I live 6976 Langle Drive. And all I want to say is I'm a part of a group called ACA, Affirm, Celebrate, Advocate. Anyone who's interested in looking at how they can help include their children in this community to help make it better for all of our children, white children included, please see me after this meeting. My name is Tyra Blanks. Again, I am a homeowner in this community, and I have 7 children who have gone through this school district.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there anyone else who wants to approach the podium and address the board? Yes, sir? If you'll state your name and address, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Greg Warner. I'm a teacher at Clarkson High School for 27 years, and I live in Clarkston for about 15 years. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I wanted to just say this simple thing. I've taught English and history over the years, and I've never heard of critical race theory. It's never been told in any committee that we must cover this. In fact, the first time I heard it was probably on the news. And so I think something's being blown out of proportion here from my perspective. But I do think, and I agree with the last speaker, that there's diversity in our community, in our schools, and if you're in the hallways, you'll see it. And for every student that says, every student of color who says, I don't want to talk about race anymore, there's probably several students of color who say, we need to talk about race. And I think, so there's a little more nuance than just one speaker. And any teacher that says it's okay to feel white guilt, that's not what we're told to say. That's not part of our curriculum. That's one teacher speaking off the cuff. I don't doubt that it happened, but it
Please don't interrupt the speaker.
I don't doubt that it happened, but it's not part of the curriculum, and it's just like some people speak out of turn sometimes. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Last call for anyone else who would like to address the board. All right, seeing no one else, we will move on to item 10, information items. Our next Board of Education meeting is Monday, July 12th. We will begin at 5:30. It's our annual organizational meeting and board retreat. And trustees, I will be sending you more information on the structure of that meeting and where we will be meeting here in the building. Item 11 is adjournment. May I have a motion, please?
I move we adjourn. Support.
Well, normally we don't have discussion on that, but I do want to say a few words before we do adjourn and bring the school year to an official close. I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you to our community, both here in the boardroom and those watching this evening. I don't need to reiterate how challenging of a year it's been, but I do believe that one of the positive things to come out of it, both for us as a board and a school district, has been the level of participation by our parents and our community in the life of our district. That's the nature of public education. We all have a stake in it, whether we're parents, grandparents, or taxpayers. The success of Clarkston Community Schools matters a great deal to our community. Public schools belong to the public. We all have a say, even when our opinions differ. But let's not forget what unifies us. We all chose to raise our families in Clarkston for its culture of kindness, its small town pride, and more than likely for its public schools. We're all invested in preparing our children for lifelong success and happiness, and we're all neighbors and friends. I also want to say thank you for the respectful tone that's dominated most of the public comment for the last year. As you see in the news, that isn't always the case, but we as your Board of Education have made a commitment to each other and to our community to be professional and respectful at all times. Likewise, we listen and we honor all of the voices in our community. It's our responsibility to set the example for the students who are watching, and I ask you to continue to remember that as we move into a new school year. We know you're passionate about your children and the issues that affect them. We are about our children as well. So let's be better than what we see on TV and on social media. Let's continue to be the community that we chose to live in the first place. And with that, we have a motion on the table to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you. Good night.